Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce. Now, I'm not one to grab a product, buy a product, test it out over a weekend, and then give you a thumbs up or thumbs down report on that product. No, I like to get my hands dirty. I like to really try it out and test it out. And this video is the end result of over 1 year of testing the least expensive or cheap, depending on your terminology, 1911 that I could find. Of course, this is unloaded. The magazine, one of the magazines is not unloaded. Let me go ahead and unload that magazine here. There we go. Magazine is now unloaded as well. So, what do we have here? Well, we have an ATI 1911. This is the military 1911 version, which is the stock standard, basically military style 1911 that served overseas during World War I and World War II. Now, of course, this is made completely differently, but in the very image of the old school 1911. How did I test out this 1911? Well, I go to the shooting range about once a week. I average about once a week or so all throughout the year. And I've owned this for more than a year, about, I don't know, 13, 14 months or so since I bought this. And I have taken this to the range every single time. Typically, I've only emptied one, maybe two magazines worth of ammo through it. Sometimes I've put an entire box through it. I have no idea how many rounds I've sent down the barrel. I don't keep a shot count of my firearms, but it's a lot. Now, when I bought this over a year ago, it was on sale for $320. I'm not lying there. It was $320. Right now, as of the time of this recording, which should be going up the same week, the price right now, you can find it online for $360. This exact model, $360. Now, I am not including FFL costs, shipping costs, or any kind of background checks because those are all different in every state. So that's going to be added on later. But typically, as long as you don't live in a funky state, then you're looking at about a $400 price tag to get this in your hands. And that is not bad out the door for a brand new, fully functional 1911. But is it a fully functional 1911? Well, let's take a look. So what comes in the box? Well, number one is you get a regular standard cheap plastic box there. Of course, the foam's not even glued down on one side. Actually, both sides. But you get a normal plastic case, which you should be getting rid of almost immediately because screw that, unless you're planning to trade this in eventually, then keep the cases because that can help your resale value a little bit. So you get a case, you get, of course, an instruction manual, which I have no idea where it is. It's somewhere, I'm sure, in my pile of junk. And you get one magazine and one pistol. And that is it. The magazine is not made by ATI. It is an ACT mag, ACT mag, which I believe is an Italian company. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe it's an Italian company. It's a good looking mag. Actually, it says Italy right there. So, Fragile, it's Italian. So the one ACT mag you do get is nicely finished. It's nicely blued. Got a metal follower, of course, metal spring. It's all steel, and it does have a plastic base plate, but that's about it. It loads up and fits very, very nicely into the pistol, and it drops freely as well. ATI makes a ton of different models and makes of 1911. This particular model is a standard 5-inch military style 1911. That's a 70 series 1911. And it looks just like the 1911s that saw service overseas during World War I and World War II. It has a nice mahogany grips there. And the checkering is cut. It does not look like it is pressed in. It looks like it's actually cut in, which is nice, and it does feel good. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. First of all, how well is this thing put together? Everything is very smooth. The action, very smooth right there. It's kind of under lubricated right now, but that is very, very smooth action. The trigger's good. We'll measure the trigger weight here in a little bit. The lockup's good. The frame to slide fit, very, very little movement, very little rocking. There's a little bit there. It's not a surgically tight fit like you find on a brand new Kimber or something of that nature. But the thing thing fits nicely. Thing fits very, very nicely. All the parts have worn together very, very well. The first, I'd say 100 rounds or so were a little bit of a chore. There was some break-in period in here. I'm not going to lie about that. There was some break-in period, but after that, it feels good. Now, one of the things you're going to notice when you first pick this up is the fact that at least my pistol, they might be different over the variants of the models, but this particular pistol has the widest 1911 grips I have ever felt. If you like a very thin 1911 grip, you're probably going to be changing these suckers out, because these are big old boys. This kind of got a badonkadonk of 1911 grips. So if I didn't think that I liked a thick grip, I always imagine myself liking a nice thin 1911 grip, but these feel good. Maybe it's me shooting too many Glocks during the last 5, 10, 15 years, but yeah, these wider grips do feel really good in the hand, which is something I did not expect on a 1911, but I like it. So it feels good in the hand. The fitting between the frame and the slide is right on perfect after a year of shooting. So it's worn in, they've really worn in together very nicely. So how does it shoot? It shoots really well. It shoots as good as a normal, decent 1911 should. It's not rattly, it's not loose, it is accurate enough to have fun with. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a match grade pistol. It probably shoots better than me. Actually, I can almost guarantee you that it shoots better than me on most days. And that's really all you can expect from a pistol, is to shoot at least as good, if not better, than you're able to shoot. The ATI 1911s are all made with standard spec internals, which means you should be able to take any kind of 1911 aftermarket parts and swap them right in. Now, does that mean you can replace this curved mainspring housing with a flat mainspring housing? Oh, by the way, the ATI 1911s have a curved mainspring housing. Some people like that, some people don't. Personally, I kind of prefer a flat mainspring housing, but not enough to buy another one and put it in here. It's not that big of a deal to me, but if it came with a flat mainspring housing, I would have been a slight bit happier. So does that mean you can take a standard random part from one 1911 bunch and stick it in here? Probably, but not always, because remember, 1911s are not like a Glock. Modding a 1911, you're very often you're going to have to do a little bit of modification, a little bit of filing on parts to get them to run properly. And that is across the board with all 1911s. That's not an ATI issue. That's a 1911 issue. So far in this video, it's been looking pretty good, pretty sunshine and roses for the ATI 1911. But you know my videos, you know how I conduct tests and reviews. With the good, there's always the bad. There is no such thing as a perfect product, and the ATI 1911 is no different. I could not get this thing to run 2 consecutive mags of ammo without a fail to feed. Sometimes it would be every mag, and sometimes it'd be every other mag that I would get a fail to feed. And it would be a good fail to feed too. It wouldn't be something just simple where I could bump the slide forward. It needed a full cycle to get it cleared and running again. Now, at first what I did was I changed out the main recoil spring. And I went to, let's see, well, here we go right here. Went to Wilson Combat, and I got a whole spring kit, because when you have a 1911, you're going to want a whole spring kit ready to go when you do break a spring, because 1911s require a little bit more maintenance than your standard Glock or Smith & Wesson M&P. They just do. Now, the reason why I tried the extra powerful recoil spring is because the factory recoil spring was super weak. So I figured if I added more power to the recoil spring, it would have a little more oomph to get that cartridge chambered every time. It didn't. So obviously it was not the recoil spring strength that was the issue. So the very next thing I tried was a different magazine. So I picked up a Chip McCormick Power Mag here. It's a normal 8-round magazine. And that fixed all my issues. That fixed every single issue I had. It ran 230 grain ball ammo. It ran hollow point. Even ran my anemic cast load there. That's a semi-wad cutter cast bullet that I I loaded those a long time ago. And let's see, where did I... Accurate number 2, there we go, I found it. So accurate number 2 powder is what I loaded all of my 45 caliber ammo with. It's not even that good of a powder for that. It's an okay powder. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. It is a very fast burning powder, which means you can stretch this powder to infinity. You can probably make 2,000 rounds with this 1 pound of powder. Now, I'm not going to tell you that the ACT mag is a bad mag. These are 1911s. Every single 1911. You know, the next serial number up might love this mag, and the next serial number down might even hate the Chip McCormick mags. That's just standard issue 1911 things you got to deal with, is the fact that they are mag sensitive. They're a little bit finicky. Once you find a mag that works, you buy 10 of them. That's basically the mantra, is you find a Chip McCormick mag that works with this, you buy 10 of these. If the ACT mag works, you buy 10 of them, and you don't look back. Noteworthy details about ATI 1911s. From what I can tell, all the ones I've ever seen have been Series 70 1911 versus the Series 80 1911s. Now, if you don't know what the Series 70 versus Series 80 1911s are, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So one of the beautiful things about a 1911 is how simple they are. The low parts count. It's just very simplistic in nature, which makes it a beautiful design. The Series 70 is a more simplistic design than the Series 80. The Series 80 has a firing pin block and a plunger and all that good stuff in there, which in some places in the country and in the world is a requirement. So it's either a Series 80 1911 or no 1911. So of course people choose the Series 80 versus nothing. But if you can't get a Series 70, it's a little more simplistic. Some people like the drop safety, some people like the extra safety features of a Series 80. If it doesn't bother you to have a few less safety features, the Series 70 is more simplistic. Some people say that it has a better trigger pull. I don't think so. I've never could tell a difference between a Series 70 and Series 80 while shooting it, just while cleaning it. That's the only time I ever could notice it. On ATI's website, they state that the military version, the military model, this one right here, is made of all steel parts. But then if you scroll down the actual parts count, it states, you know, basically everything's made out of steel and goes down steel, 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 except for the trigger. And they state the trigger is made of aluminum, which is weird because just a few scrolls up, it said it was all steel parts. Well, I've got a magnet here. Of course, the slide is steel, frame is steel, and there's a trigger. And the trigger is obviously steel. So I'm not sure if they started using aluminum triggers and just haven't updated their entire website, or if they use aluminum triggers on most of their 1911s, but since this is the military model, they use a steel trigger on there. I have no idea, but mine is steel. And now, speaking of steel parts, the elephant in the room when you're talking about 1911s is forged steel frames versus cast steel frames, forged parts versus cast steel parts versus MIM steel parts. MIM, that's metal injection molded steel parts. So what is the ATI made of? Well, you know what it's made of. It's a budget 1911. It is the cheapest budget 1911 out there. Of course, it's going to be riddled with cast parts, with MIM parts. It is not going to have many forged parts at all. The internal components are a hodgepodge of cast, forged, and MIM parts. The frame is cast 4140 steel, and the slide is a forged extrusion. Now, luckily, cast steel parts, metal injected steel parts, if they're going to fail, they're going to fail because the molding process was done incorrectly at a different temperature, a wrong temperature. And that leaves a void inside there. So if there's a void of soft metal inside there, they will fail very quickly. So what I recommend, not only for pistols, but every single thing you buy, what I recommend is to use it immediately, test it immediately. Don't ever buy something and then put it on a shelf for a rainy day collecting dust. So in the end, the least expensive 1911 on the market, which in this case is made by ATI, happens to be a pretty decent pistol. Now, is it a match grade, competition worthy 1911? No, it's not. It is not. Does it come to you completely ready to go out of the box? Mine wasn't. I wasn't 100% comfortable with the weak recoil spring, and the magazine that came with it sucked. It was a horrible magazine. Yours might be different. Your mileage may vary, but more than likely, you're probably going to have to buy a new recoil spring, and you're probably going to have to invest in some new magazines, or at least test out some new magazines to figure out what it likes best, because it's probably not going to like the one that came with it. And lastly, this is a budget firearm. This is a very budget firearm, which means the quality control will probably be lacking, more than likely. My quality control, I mean, other than the spring and the magazine, the quality control is pretty decent on this one. Yours might not be as good, or it might be much better. Who knows? But the point is, the end user on a budget firearm, a budget anything, the end user, the purchaser, me, you, whoever, is the final quality control check. Per ATI's website, anything that was purchased new after 2015, there's a special date there. After that date in 2015, they have a limited lifetime warranty. Now that warranty states, if you read into it a little bit, it states that if you modified your pistol at all, it voids the warranty. So technically, I guess by changing out the recoil spring, I might have already violated a warranty. I'm not sure. And lastly, I cannot tell a difference between this 1911 and a 1911 made by Rock Island Armory, which is another budget 1911 option out there. Now, they're both made in the Philippines, both the ATI 1911 and the 1911 offered by Rock Island Armory, but they're made by two different factories, two different companies in the Philippines. There's two different Philippine companies that make 1911s for the US market. I know, weird. But I can't really tell the difference between the fit, the finish, and the shooting, because I have shot quite a few Rock Island Armory options out there. I don't own any, but I have shot them. The Rock Island Armory has many more options, but they're also between $50 and $100 more expensive, depending on what sales you can find out there. Well, guys, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. If you want to stay on Deuce and Guns channel, go ahead and take a look at those two videos right here. That'll keep you watching on the Deuce channel. And if not, you can go ahead and leave comments, questions, or show ideas in the comment box below the video. As always, you guys have a great day. See ya.